wait a little longer if you prefer.
Give it just another minute. And while that's getting ready, I will prepare. I'm going to introduce you.
Nice.
Hope your bio hasn't changed since I put it in here. All right. Well, since we're going to go ahead and get started, it is 12 o'clock and we want to be respectful of everybody's time. So thank you all for being here. We've got nearly 30 people on the call, and thank you again to Larissa for joining us. So for today's Lunch and Learn, I'm pleased to introduce Larissa. You're gonna have to correct me on your last name. Is it Parades Muse?
Paredes. Paredes.
I took French in school. So Larissa joins us from IEEE, and she is currently located in Atlanta, Georgia. Larissa is an architect and urbanist with a diverse background, including multiple professional and academic experiences related to energy efficiency, urban sciences, and construction management. She has a master's degree in urban engineering at the Polytechnic School of the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, with broad research in IoT, big data, and other smart technologies, and the implications of their deployment on street lighting infrastructure and cities. As a member of IEEE Smart Cities Community, Larissa has been involved in the discussions regarding standardization and the state-of-the-art smart cities technologies, bringing an international perspective. As an associate research fellow at the Brazilian Network of Smart and Human Cities, RBCIH, she has been connected to multiple stakeholders of smart cities environments in Brazil and is responsible for the relationships between Brazil and Atlanta. So with that, I'll turn it over to Larissa, and she'll be able to give a presentation for about 30 minutes and then answer all your questions, hopefully.
Thank you, Catherine, very much. Thanks everyone for being here. Since I'm having problems with the bandwidth here, I will turn off my camera while I present, if you don't mind, because I don't want to risk interrupting the presentation for connectivity issues. So let's go. So thanks for joining us today for this overview about smart cities. Like Catherine say, I am a smart street lighting specialist and as well as smart cities specialist. I am currently working with IEEE as a marketing lead. And I also, before I immigrate to the States, I was working with the Brazilian Network for Smart and Human Cities, which is a institution that really gives advice to municipalities and the different stakeholders on how to start with the smart cities technologies. So since I have a bandwidth connection, I would ask our audience to also turn off their cameras if they don't mind. And let me see. So anyway, I expected this section to be very interactive and to be more like a conversation so that my presentation won't take more than 20 minutes. That way, we'll have plenty of time to discuss the expectations of your company in this new subject. And also, if you have any questions or topic that I have not covered, you feel free to ask me. Oh, come on. Let's go. So here's a little bit of my background, but since Catherine already presented me, but I would like to say that in few words, my job is to build bridges and to facilitate the dialogue between public managers, construction companies, urban planners, and technology companies, aligning the different points of views of the multiple stakeholders of the smart cities ecosystem. It's a little difficult, but it's feasible. And the topics that I'm going to cover today will be the context of digital transformation, a definition of smart cities, the main technologies for smart cities, an overview of the Lochmueller group. I hope I'm saying the name right. And I will show you a little bit about digital twins, augmented reality, and autonomous vehicles, since I think that it's close to the job that you do in your company. And in the end, I intend to reserve at least 30 minutes for the discussion. Digital transformation, as you probably know, It's driven by the evolution of the information and communication technologies, and it has caused a profound change in various sectors of society. In fact, there, what we are witnessing is a true civilizational revolution, where technology is gaining more and more prominence and interfering in the way that we behave, work, and perform our activities in society. The development of the Internet of Things and other technology characteristics of the phenomenon of digital transformation enhanced the opportunities for large-scale, real-time data collection, processing, and analysis, with the aim of providing useful solutions and services that facilitate processes in the various sectors of society, for example, in healthcare, commerce, industry, and also in cities. So I brought here a definition based on the definitions of smart cities from ISO and from the International Telecommunications Union, and as well as the Brazilian Network for Smart and Human Cities. Basically, smart cities are those that seek to respond to urban problems in their multiple aspects, social, environmental, economic, and political, in a sustainable and fair way, while promoting the integration between different infrastructures and urban services so that they can operate more efficiently, aiming at the quality of life of citizens. And they include society in the decision-making process through collaborative methods. And they also consider the vocations and particularities of each city. All this with the help of the technologies, such as the Internet of Things, the telecommunication infrastructure, data intelligence, among others, through which it's possible to make data-driven decisions in order to facilitate the design of urban dynamics management policies and urban planning, so that the government can perform effective management, saving resources. In other words, those technological solutions enable what we call the integrated urban management, which contributes to speed the responsiveness of the public sector and to increase urban resilience. And due to the complexity of the cities, the entire decision-making process for the pursuit of the desired improvements becomes strongly dependent on diverse information and data on all urban elements to cities for meeting their social functions and needs, as well as urban sustainability. Without information and data, it is very difficult to properly perceive and understand the city's needs, understand their difficulties, and ultimately to provide design solutions, implement them, control the results, or adjust directions. In the urban environment, the use of emerging technologies to collect, store, analyze, and disseminate information in a faster and more dynamic way is growing, replacing the static data analysis model. In this sense, smart city solutions and technologies become important allies to the multiple stakeholders that intervene in the cities, like you at Lochmueller Group. The idea is to move from the siloed approach and work as an integrated and transversal of services, infrastructures, stakeholders, and society, all of them included in the decision-making based on data that should be interchangeably shared, available, and easy to read, so that the multiple aspects and the expectations of the multiple stakeholders can be addressed. Also, it is much easier to define strategies, priorities, and vulnerabilities in the city infrastructures and services, having a multidisciplinary data visualization platform. Now I'm going to go a little deep into the smart cities technologies, and here are the most common. Sorry, I jumped faster. The first is the Internet of Things, the IoT, which is essentially a system of interconnected platforms and devices that can be cameras for traffic monitoring and surveillance connected to this central platform where you can visualize all the images, and environmental and traffic light and light sensors, detectors and alarms for atypical events, among countless others. As for the communication infrastructure, it's important to consider device and media, such as fiber, radio frequency, mobile phones networks like 4G and 5G, and also features like range, energy consumption, cost, and data transfer rate. Big data is an ecosystem of technology for processing a large volume and variety of large-scale data in a more agile way. This volume of data requires a robust data storage, processing, and analysis platform. Currently, the most common platforms for this type of applications are the clouds. And there are nothing more than computers offered remotely, and they are adaptable according to the user's need in terms of size, processing capacity, and data volume. This data may be processed and programmed to provide useful information to the users or managers. And other technologies there that I would like to highlight is the artificial intelligence and more specifically machine learning techniques that make it easier to arrange this data so it can be understood and visualized in a more proper way. In addition, these techniques also can assist in the data-driven decision-making process. Finally, build space digital modeling processes such as BIM, city information modeling, and digital twins are also important technology for smart cities. But later I'll address this last one. These technologies, however, do not only bring benefits. It is necessary to consider the risk and challenges of their adoptions in cities. These are the main. The complexity of these technologies require a set of high-level experts, and the lack of technical training in a company to deal with those technologies can increase your cost of deployment and maintenance due to the needs of hiring specialized personnel. That also is applied to cities and municipalities. There is also limited resources of funding and budget for investment in new technologies. In addition, the larger the scale of the project, the greater is the risk of the investment. New technologies can also reduce system privacy and security, as well as increase the risk of failure, and they also increase the risk of cyber attacks, along with the risk of data appropriation or abduction, if the systems are not properly requires data collection depending on regulations of the country or depending on the bureaucracy of the legislative process if there is no legal framework. Finally, it can increase the risk of overloading the telecommunication system because of the volume of the data. And now I did some digging to understand more of your business. Kathy helped me with this one. I learned that you have a very diverse team working from planning and pardon me and construction administration to have infrastructure design. Pardon me. Kathy told me that the two primary teams most interested in smart cities are the traffic engineering and planning and water resources. If I'm not wrong, if Catherine, if you help me with that, I believe that's the one that you told me.
Yes. So we know there's other members of our other service lines on the call here today. So we're happy to incorporate your information as well. We just know that specifically traffic engineering and planning and water resources seem very interested in the IoT programs.
Oh, thank you. Terrific. Actually, I did the pre-session survey, and later I'm going to see better where you are distributed in the call. I hope that you received and responded. So anyway, so I brought you some content and videos suited to your business with the new trend focused in both sectors. So since I didn't have much time to read the pre-session survey, I would like to later get back to you on providing you some interesting content, and I can share with Catherine later. Well, based on the workshops on the survey I sent you this morning, most of the respondents are from the traffic engineering planning sector. And among the responses that I received to the questions, what are you looking for to learn the most about smart cities. The responses varies from I don't know enough to very specific questions like how do all the systems get integrated and how do you ensure a holistic solutions and how do you get people on board and funding. So you can see that I think I did the right thing on bringing very overview presentation, a high level presentation, because my idea here is to put everyone on the same page and have a baseline about smart cities so that if you have if you have deep questions or more specific questions, for sure we'll be able to discuss it right after the presentation. I noticed also that 37.5% by the time where I put the survey results here has less than 1 year exposure to smart cities. So it's pretty new. It is a new topic. And I myself, have been working with smart cities since 2017, so not much longer ago. So I think I have 8% of folks here that works for more than 5 years. So maybe you're a senior. And what I'm saying is that the smart city field, the smart city sector that is increasingly getting famous now, is really becoming how can I say, very pervasive. You can see everywhere, and you can see everyone speaking about smart cities. Everyone curious about lots of conferences about it, and but sometimes we don't know where to start. Correct. And for myself was the same. When I start in the smart cities world, I find very difficult to find publications about it, and specifically for the Brazilian scenario, because we are a little behind on that. I find it very interesting to know you, and I would like to tell you that if you're really interested in learning smart cities, I'll give you some next steps in the end of this presentation, so don't worry. It was good to know that you also work with the transportation mainly, but you also have some water resources, and like here in the third place, together with environmental services and civil site design. I'm going ahead, and now that I know a little bit about your crew, I ask you, have you heard about smart cities initiatives in your area? If not, that's very nice map I just stole from your website. I'm just um, I'm just saying that if you don't know yet, I would strongly recommend that you start looking around to see those new opportunities and these new endeavors. And there are several private and non-profit consultancy that would advise cities and companies and partners to pursue grants to finance smart cities and community projects as well. And I can connect you with some folks that have been involved with that at the national level. But I also know that it's not easy to shift a business model to accommodate these new trends. I have been advising a consultancy company in Brazil, and it's taking some time until finding the niche, positioning themselves in this new context as an authority with the subject. For that, I would recommend you to start by researching about the new technologies a little deeper, reading some industry trends and reports, standards, and also participating in the events about the topic. In the end of this presentation, I said I'm going to give you some reading and events recommendation. Now I'm going to show you some technologies that are assumed to be interesting for your business. Starting with digital twins. Anyway, digital twins meet the demand for smart cities through the evolution of digital models to more complex representations of the urban environment. In this system, of things that will be interconnected with real-time information fed through sensors and data analysis, artificial intelligence, and other technologies and methods. So basically, digital twins is a replica of the physical world, both natural and artificial. And the digital twin allows visualizing urban dynamics in real time with data of urban infrastructure, the built environment, public services, and mobility, for example. In other words, everything that happens in cities can be previously planned to optimize the results and adjusted in real time to keep up with the changes. What makes it possible for cities to be planned, designed, built, and managed? And when I say manage, I said operate and maintain it, while stimulating and optimizing public-private relations, participatory management of citizens, and allocation and combinations of resources of all kinds, with the object of maximizing results according to the objectives and priorities of urban planning. The digital twins can also be understood as an urban platform from which one can have a more holistic view of the city, improving its urban infrastructure and its public services through open data and APIs that enable the development of solutions from the bottom up. Another relevant fact is that these technologies contribute substantially to improve the resilience of a city due to the ability of test and prototype virtual models before implementation in the real world, as well as simulation of emergencies, for example, urban flooding and uh, uh, some pipe that broke. So they simulate how to act based on the models. So it's pretty interesting. And to illustrate that, I brought some videos for you. So I don't know if you are able to hear. I'm going to try to pause it. Are you able to hear the video while I'm playing? Kathy?
I don't think we can hear it.
Okay. Uh, I don't know how to do that. Anyway, I'm gonna describe a little bit. So I'm gonna keep on the video on mute because I don't know how to convert that to audio for in Teams. I would do that in Zoom and other platform, but in Teams I have to admit that I am brand new to this one. So someone is showing the conversation. You might need to select share
Larissa,
computer audio. Okay.
so you
Uh,
stop sharing and then
okay, stop sharing. Let's see again. Share and screen two. And oh, okay. Maybe here. Give control. Oh, I'm sorry for that. I had any way to learn about that before. Uh, Let me see. What you're seeing the screen? You're seeing pipes?
yes, we're seeing pipes.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and later send you these videos. They are online. Okay? So we don't lose time.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Okay. Combined with augmented reality, the digital twins can improve and facilitate significantly the work of maintenance and operation teams, especially when your infrastructure is underground or behind the walls. Here are some videos of both technologies working together. Looks like that I have some background noise, but I'm gonna continue. I'm using here Bentley as a reference, but there are other players in the market, so I'm gonna continue this.
So it looks like this is augmenting reality to give real-time instructions as you are working on a site.
Exactly, exactly. I don't know how to increase the volume in the computer. I would like to because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, we'll definitely, if you send it over to me, I'll share it with everybody when we're finished.
Okay. So you can see here that the technician can read the standards or read the instructions and hear the instructions from a central to know what to do inside. So that it's really interesting. And now step by step, it automatically identified the device itself. So you can see that it could identify the valves. So for the water resources folks over there, that it can be applied to both indoors or outdoors for major infrastructure that can go from different scales. So I'm gonna fast forward here. So this was a Bentley solution. This one is very interesting because you can see that is in a urban space, so you can use the augmented reality glasses, and you can actually see where are the pipes on the ground and the accesses to the houses and to the facilities, and you can mark. So that's fantastic for maintenance. And if I have any problem, for example, a leak, you'll be able to identify and mark automatically in your model. So you can see it automatically identifies where are the entrances. The pretty interesting, huh? So
Definitely.
I hear any feedback from that. So I'm almost in the end. So this is a very interesting video. I had the experience of being an autonomous shuttle in National Harbor, Maryland. And here, Rashid Walford from Locomotives explained a little bit about the vehicle. But since we won't be able to hear what he's saying, I will later send you this video too. Um, but I'm going to show you anyway, very quick. So you can see that there are some cameras. Uh, wait a second. So you can see there are some cameras that can identify the surroundings, and there are a system in his computer here you can see. So here is the geolocalized map where the autonomous vehicles can go, like a route, a predetermined route. And anyway, uh, those technologies are still need a dedicated lane, for example. And for example, there is a smart venue here in Georgia in Peachtree Corner City, developed by a group called Curiosity Lab. I think, in my opinion, they are still a way to go. So let me pause the video. It looks like that the video is not working properly. Anyway, I can show you the video later. I also want to highlight for what I've been researching. Since they are still in phase of test, they require a control environment. The vehicles are equipped with cameras to signage and obstacle identification, sensors for identifying obstacles and people in movement, and predefined route and speed. There is also a way to coordinate the traffic lights to the tempo of the autonomous vehicles or vice versa, but it's still some ways to go. So in my opinion, this technology is not ready yet to scale, but there is already some study cases that work to go through. I'm gonna play the rest of the video if you're still interested. So you can see that suddenly the car stopped for a moment because there is someone in the route. So you can see for the bus, this is a bus stop, and the bus automatically stops by. So here it's contouring a UPS car by itself. Anyway, pretty interesting, but it's still a way to go. So where do I get more info about those technologies and concepts? So I send here the link for the, one second. Okay, so here I send the link for the ISO standards, the Sustainable Cities and Communities, the ITU Series Y, 4000 to 4999, Internet of Things and Smart Cities and Communities, the IEEE P2784 Guide for Technology and Process Framework for Planning a Smart City. This particular group, I am the vice chair. So you are all invited. You don't need to be a member of IEEE to invite the work group. We are still developing this standard. So their aim to be like a cookbook for how to start with smart city projects. So it's very simple, nothing deep like the ISO and the ITU standard. There's no key performance indicators or any indicators whatsoever. It's more like an overview of the technologies, overview of the applications and the human factors, as well as some process planning guide. And for the conference and events, I would highlight the IEEE Smart Cities Resource Center. We just had the conference, Kathy knows, we just had the conference of the International Smart City Conference from IEEE, and all the presentations are here in this link. I'm gonna have also, I forgot to mention in this presentation, but there are gonna be a big conference, the Smart Cities Connect, which was supposed to be in Denver and then supposed to be Maryland, and then finally they moved virtually. And that one I'm gonna send the link later to Kathy, and she can distribute to you. Very, very much worth to go. Consultancy companies, US Ignite is the way to go. They have those playbooks which you can learn about everything that is involved with smart cities, is very good. And they also work with financing institutions in the national level. Autonomous vehicles, locomotors, study case Curiosity Lab that I mentioned, and the software providers, Bentley are the ones that I provided here, but Autodesk also have some solutions, as you may know. Anyway, now I want to hear from you, and I don't want this session to be just a one-way conversation monologue, even though I passed a little bit of the time because of the video problems. But please ask your questions and doubts. And if I know the answer, I will respond right away. If I don't know, I will follow up with my network to do or do some research, and I'll get back to you through Kathy.
All right, we have 46 people on the call now, so that we don't overwhelm the bandwidth, if you can submit your questions in the chat box, I will share them with Larissa and she will be able to answer them. Well,
I'm gonna keep on this one.
While we're waiting for questions, I will say, Larissa, where do you see the biggest opportunity for smart cities in the next 5 years?
Kathy, I would say that there are some trends that point to the combination of electric vehicles and autonomous vehicles, together with the whole, as I said, there's this holistic approach where the different services and infrastructure are combined together. And one of that is like some tech companies are pushing towards the autonomous vehicles. But I think the major ones are street lighting for sure, water resources, wastewater. They are the major infrastructures that needs to be, they are aged already. So there are several cities that are having problems with that. So there is a big demand. And I just had the big lecture about sanitation in the cities. And if you work in the States, here are the country that has more of the age infrastructure of sanitation and water um, pipes and etc. So I think for this crew, that will be a very important shift in the next few years. And as I showed you, some technologies they're already preparing for that. So I don't know if you agree with that. Street lighting is the most common, but I would say that is already saturated. So I think strategically to think about infrastructure there that has a few people that are involved with and a few people that are actually using those new technologies, 3D visual model visualization and augmented reality and digital twins, they're going to be far ahead in the market.
Great. Our first question comes from Cheryl. She says, a lot of times we're planning out 20 years of transportation networks for our clients. How do you suggest we advise our clients on how to prepare for future technologies when things are changing so quickly?
Wow, that is very accurate. Thanks for the question, Cheryl. The thing is, nowadays, before we had those engineering long-term projects, right? And we know that it's very difficult to manage planning for 20 years, 30 years sometimes, and do a public and private partnership that can take like forever, a concession. And for that, you have to meet the expectations of the client. The client. One of the things that I would like to highlight with those new technologies is since lots of companies are shifting their business model from the long-term type of projects to more fast type of projects. So you see that you have software as a service, infrastructure as a service, several technologies and solutions, mobility as a service. So they are shifting their business model instead of providing the technologies or providing the infrastructure all by themselves and expecting them to not to be replaced for the next 20 years or for example they won't be able to maintain along the 20 years. For a city manager perspective, you're going to say, okay, I just don't want to be preoccupied on what I'm going to do in the future. What will be the technology in the future? So they are more and more shifting to this new business model where they get the infrastructure or they get the service as a service, you know. So the technology is the responsibility now of the companies, the technology companies that can bring to the infrastructure of the city. I don't know if I made myself clear.
Well, certainly, we can always follow up with additional one-on-one questions. The next comes from Ben. For connecting the various IoT elements in the field, do you see public agencies or private telecom companies like AT&T or Verizon building out that communication infrastructure, or will there always be a mix of public and private?
To that question, Tyson, it's very difficult for me to respond accurately because since I immigrated last year, so I don't know very much the scenario here in the States in depth to give you this question if it will always be that way. But the trend worldwide, and including in Brazil and in the States, is to do the public and private partnerships. Usually those smart cities projects are in a very limited area, in a pilot area, for example. So they don't cover the entire city. So the whole idea that we have right now about smart cities is we call smart cities, but in fact they are not deploying in such a large scale, depending on the size of the city. For example, when you want to provide the telecommunication infrastructure in an entire city like New York City, it's a lot of work. So different from cities that are small or medium cities. So necessarily would have to have some private investment on that because the public don't have all the money for that. So the trend worldwide, I would say that is the public and private partnership for increasing that. I have one problem with that. Because when there is a exclusively private or public-private partnership, it is necessary to guarantee that the infrastructure will be democratically distributed in the city. Because what we usually see is that they put the nice 5G networks fiber in a very fancy and wealthy area. So it's okay. You could choose the pilots to be that because increased businesses in the area. For sure, there's some opportunity zones and other places to put those high end communication infrastructure. But truth being said, most of the projects don't not attend the poorest community, and we saw with the COVID that everyone needs to go to school and everyone needs to have bandwidth. Everyone needs to work. And the poor communities are the most affected because they don't have it.
All right, thank you. This question comes from Ted. He says, on the augmented reality, what are the glasses used as a reference to know, so what are the glasses using as a reference to know where they are located in the city?
Okay, so your glasses, there are many glasses in the market. I particularly know one brand, which is Cognitive Spark, which I had the opportunity to actually do the testing. Google has its Google Lens, but I think they took off the market. But the one thing is, for using the augmented reality, you have to have the model already designed. So for example, you have the digital twins or you have the city information model or the building information modeling design. So you put the glasses where you were, since they are, most of the information are geolocalized, and it's set to be the program, the software already ask you to put in things in the right place. So when you use it, doesn't matter which glasses you use, as long as they are compatible to the visualization too. Also, the softwares need to be able to export as video files or as the 3D glasses files. So I one question related to that is, sorry to interrupt, and just came up. The glasses are dependent on oriented. Well, not necessarily. Depending on, of course, on how critical is your infrastructure. For example, if you are in oil facilities in the middle of the ocean and you have to impede an explosion or something critical, for sure you need to have a high speed, a high responsivity, a low latency. And but for general maintenance and applications, you have to have a connectivity, a reliable, but doesn't need to be as fast. I don't know if that responds to your question, Brian.
Next question from Marcia. She says, I see incredible benefits for operations and maintenance and utility applications. Has there been any research or studies done on the impact of intrinsic knowledge and innovation due to heavy reliance on 3D guided AI software?
That one I will have to research because on IEEE we have several technical committees, several societies, and there is one that is specifically for AI, digital twins, 3D models, and engineering technological papers and research. So I'm going to need to go back to you to respond these questions. I agree with you. There is a lot of research about that, but I don't have any specifically to recommend to you right away. What I can do, I actually have a good friend that she's a BIM manager, and she's very specialized in high competent in the digital twins world. And she taught me everything that I know about digital twins. We wrote papers together, but the papers that we wrote maybe is not going to address your question directly. So I'm going to need to do some research about it. And you're invited to always look into IEEE Explore database. So just like I want to to say that we have freaking great folks and researchers in IEEE, and I admire all of them. And I'm seeing a reason of those researches on there and lots of conferences and papers being written by about those topics. So
All right, we got a couple more questions before we have 15 minutes left, so get your questions in if you need them. Another question from Cheryl. Can you address data security? What are the biggest concerns with digital twins, for example?
Yes, the data security part is one of the trickiest part because one of the main things that you need to do when you're doing your security. I'm not a specialist in the privacy and security, and as well as I'm an urban planner, not a technologist. So what I'm going to say is that based on the things that I've been reading, the first thing is the access control. So you need to provide the access to the people there are authorized to do those things. And even though you have malware, you are exposed to cyber attacks. The whole thing that would decrease this, I would say, that is the cloud. Lots of people have they are very skeptical about the cloud, but my husband works with as a cloud specialist, and I've been learning a lot about this particular technology. And they have lots of levels of security inside the on cloud. So you have to first have the access codes, and after the access code, there are different levels of cryptography of your data. So there's so many levels of security inside the cloud that probably one data center. The third thing that I would like to highlight would be the traditional data centers are always suitable for updating into their systems, and some of the breaches come from those updates. And I don't know if Cheryl is a data manager, but she might know that the data centers need to do the updates constantly, and that doesn't happen in the cloud because the cloud is already the very last version. So everything it's less likely to have the cyber attacks through the updates. So I don't know if that responds your question, but for sure there will be some concerns with digital twins as well, for sure.
Next question is, for medium-sized firms such as ours, would you recommend trying to get into trial projects to get our foot in the door with new technologies?
Yes, yes, I would say. It's funny because when I was working for the Brazilian Network for Smart Human Cities, my mentors always said, so obviously we want to do Rio de Janeiro, São Paulo, but they are so complex and there's so much to go through to deploy a technology in the city, legislation, regulatory aspects, socio-economic, environment. So there are so many things. So if you shrink the scale, you're definitely going to do a much better job. And in my particular opinion, I believe that small cities should be a reference for smart cities. That's my personal opinion. There are other specialists that disagree with that they say that it needs to tackle where it needs the most. Of course, the biggest city needs the most. They are more complex. There are more people over there. But since we are still learning how to do smart cities is a brand new science, so it is really new. So for Kathy is a urban planner as well, and as I am, and for us it's brand new, and we've been having trouble deploying traditional urban ideas, urbanism ideas to the cities, like traffic management, road construction. We are still not there yet. So I would say that small cities would be the best approach.
Just to clarify, we may have lost a little in translation there, but as far as the company goes, would a smaller company like ours benefit from getting involved in pilot technologies, in emerging technologies in the smart cities realm?
Okay. Now I understood your question. Yeah, that would be a question for a consultancy. because I would need to see deeper into your business model to understand more. Just looking through the website, I have an idea. Just talking to Catherine, I have an idea, but obviously for a medium small size company, and which I think you are medium size in my opinion, I would say that the publicity is a big thing about smart cities. Having the social media there, having good partners there. So I would say that a test lab, a living lab, would be a starting point. The example that I gave you about Curiosity Lab in Peachtree Corner is a good example, and I would recommend you to go into their website, see their project, and see if it actually rings the bell for you. Because it needs to be also something that you want to do, not do just because you want to learn. I think first you have to learn. I think first the first step would be investing in research and development to see if your business model can be shifted for that, because some companies are willing to, but it takes time. Like I said, it takes time, it takes a lot of research, and takes a lot of getting involved with the other stakeholders. So I would say go for the conference, get involved with the community, look for the companies that I show you, see the products, see what they got, and then the next step would be say where I start with the smart city. I want to do a smart city project.
So this next question actually is something you and I have already talked about before, but one of our clients is a community of about 20,000, and they're a smaller community and they want to get started in smart cities. So where should they start?
Consultancy companies. I would say that one, I don't like to directionate, but since I know very well the folks from US Ignite, and I asked their permission to say, hey, if something comes up, could I drive them into your email or website or something like that? They say absolutely. It's just like we don't exactly coach the construction company, but we definitely coach the city. So if the city is already has a project or a contract with your company, absolutely they would help you. So I think that would be, and they have access to grants, financing tools, and all they have a database with over 30 communities, and that I can share to you. This paper, I have this paper, I'm going to share that to you, with a little bit of their experience with data collection of the experiences during the process of doing a smart city project. So that's very interesting. So I would recommend that.
All right. Do you have an example? Which cities in the world are the best at implementing and planning for smart cities technology?
Yeah, so I think there are two parts of this question. Which technology for this technology? So I would assume digital twins, right? I don't know if that, but if it is IoT and the general smart city technologies, I would say that Singapore has been the one that is in everybody's mouth. Everyone is talking about Singapore, so I would recommend you to take a look at that. But the context is very different. So Singapore is a very tiny country with a nice economy. There is no many complexity into their country. Different from the United States and Brazil, for example, which is a huge, massive country with lots of social discrepancy and other things. So I have a good example from Brazil that I particularly have a lot of information about is the Rio de Janeiro Operation Center, which is a facility that reunites over 30 different services and infrastructure stakeholders, and they all get together. And they did a great job during the pandemic. The rates could be much worse in Rio, but then they had the cameras around the city. They had good management for big events like the Olympic Games. So smart city is not necessarily the technology itself. It's conjunctions of different technologies and infrastructures and the stakeholders and policy making that makes this environment proper prepared for when you have, uh, for example, huge traffics like Los Angeles. You have issues like an explosion in the city, terrorism attack. So I think smart cities is more into that part than the technology itself. But particularly for digital twins, and I want to be more considerate of the time, and I don't know if we have any other question. Consider related to digital twins, I would say that I would have to do a little more survey on that since I'm not the biggest specialist on that field. But I know that there are a digital twin consortium, which I represented that company in Brazil that I am doing the consultancy. I represented in the digital twin consortium, and they are doing a benchmark of digital twins applications in cities. So that will gonna be that's being made yet. So I don't have this information yet, and I don't think we have this information yet publicly. But once we have it, I'll go back to you, Catherine, and send it to you, and you can send to your team.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Are there any last questions from you all on the call? I want to thank Larissa for her time and expertise today. We'll be following up with all of you with the resources. We've got some thank yous coming in. If we have additional questions, I can direct them at you, and Larissa will share this presentation and the videos as she mentioned. So thank you again for joining us today, and hopefully we can do something like this again soon. Thank you, Larissa, and I hope you have a good time down in Atlanta.
Thank you. Hey, Kathy, can I ask you something?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you do a smile for the camera?
Oh, we're going to end up on LinkedIn, aren't we?
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you very much all for letting me share some of my knowledge. And I don't expect to know everything, but I'm definitely as a researcher, I love to speak about the things that I'm learning. And as well, you can contact me. I think I let my link in the last slide, but if not, Catherine has my LinkedIn.
Yes. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy.